Inspection tour of the collective. Get out into the world and see what's going on. Sometimes the conscious mutant will tend to withdraw from the blooming, buzzing madness of collective energy. It's too easy to fall into sarcastic disdain towards the often grotesque and toxic goings-on. But we need to know what's happening in our world. What is the state of the present zeitgeist? What is happening locally and globally? Some people feel justified in not knowing about current events. They assert with some legitimacy that the news is usually negative and ruled by the if it bleeds, it leads principle of infotainment. While this is true of many news sources, it does not excuse the obligation of every capable citizen to be as informed as possible about what's happening. Even better than seeking out news sources is for you to be your own journalist and visiting anthropologist. The view from the street is irreplaceable if you want to know what's happening. Many have highly polarized views of their nation compared to the rest of the world, but they haven't been to other countries. These are the people who tell you America is the greatest country in the world or America is the worst country in the world, but they haven't been to other countries to really have a basis of comparison for that. Some naive people on the left can only find the dark side of the force in the USA and Israel and globalizing corporations and assume anyone indigenous or from an exotic culture is an oppressed innocent. Like many right-wingers, they have led cloistered lives that reinforce their distorted views. Like these are the people that I met when I used to work for the Rocky Mountain Peace and Justice Center who felt everything going wrong in the Middle East was because of Israel. But I pointed out, okay, there was a lot of warfare going on in the world before there was a US and Israel or a globalizing corporation. And your odds of dying as a young man in war are much higher in an indigenous rainforest tribe than at any time in Western history, including the bloody 20th century. So these are people who simply can only locate the shadow in some groups, but not others. Just before I was due to revise this card in 2009, I saw a 60-minute segment on Afghanistan and the general in charge there, Stanley McChrystal, later fired by Obama because of a Rolling Stone article where he foolishly allowed the reporter there to take down all these quotes of far too candid things he was saying about Obama. Later, that Rolling Stone reporter died very mysteriously, or suspiciously, it seemed, because the brakes failed in his Mercedes. Supposedly, though, it was not found to be foul play, but it seems like I still wonder about that one. Anyway, what McChrystal had to say and how 60 Minutes portrayed him in the segment, he appears to be a highly focused and humble warrior, and no doubt he was. He may have had other flaws, though. And so that had a strong synchronistic relationship to the card because it was so relevant to this card I was about to write. Of course, later we learned that McChrystal lacked the humility to realize that he serves at the pleasure of civilian leadership, the commander-in-chief, who was Obama, and it was a bit of hubris for him to talk so candidly in such negative ways about Obama. For the purposes of this card, we can ignore the historical context and focus on McChrystal's attitude toward leadership, which seemed streetwise and insightful. For example, and these are quotes I transcribed from the 60 Minutes segment. This is McChrystal speaking. You can listen to every radio transmission down to squad level, and you can watch from the Predator, meaning the Predator drones. You can see what's going on. But you can't kid yourself that you know what's going on. But there's a danger that you do because you hear and you see it and you think, okay, I know. But you're not on the ground with the guy. You don't feel it. You don't hear the bullets. You just can't make an assessment. This brings to mind something that Rumsfeld, who was Secretary of Defense at that time, said that people mocked, but was actually an extremely wise saying. He said, there are the things we know, There are the things we don't know, and there are also the things we don't know that we even don't know them. And that's an important thing to keep in mind about life. This is something that takes a tremendous amount of understanding. This is McChrystal speaking again. What I'm really telling people is the greatest risk we can accept is to lose the support of the people here. If the people are against us, we cannot be successful. If the people view us as occupiers and the enemy, we can't be successful, and our casualties will go up dramatically. If you're so now that was the end of the McChrystal quote. If you are the leader of any sort of group or seeking to have an influence, many of the same principles apply. Being a leader doesn't necessarily mean you're a general, president, or CEO. It also applies to humbler positions. Like you might be the leader amongst a group of friends or the key custodial parent in a family or something. For example, when I was a classroom teacher and building security coordinator of an all-male public high school in the South Bronx, Samuel Gompers, during the crack epidemic, I needed to know everything I could about what was happening in that world. By earning the goodwill of students and staff, I could better fulfill my responsibilities. The narrator of the 60 Minutes piece on McChrystal tells us, when 60 Minutes went out on patrol with a squad from the 10th Mountain Division, they were not going into a village to root out insurgents, but to offer the people protection and help with their daily lives, which the central government in Kabul has so far failed to do. The only way to win, McChrystal insists, is to earn the support of the people. So this is the ground up kind of strategy rather than the top down model. You can't learn what is going on with the people or be a positive influence on them if you are disdainful, arrogant, or bullying. You can best learn and influence by being humble and receptive to others. General McChrystal, for example, gets out of his headquarters and meets people at eye level. He makes a point not to wear body armor or a sidearm. As he explains, quote, if we are visiting Afghans, typically the Afghan governor, district or provincial governor, we see he doesn't wear body armor, and yet we're walking through his streets. I'm his guest. I think that that's important, that I send a message that I trust him, and I don't think I am more valuable than I think he is. It's very easy to walk amongst people, end of quote. It's very easy to walk amongst people while being armored by a superior, indifferent, or cynical attitude. If people sense, and this is easy to sense, that we feel more important than them, then we lose our chance to learn from them and for any positive mutual influence to occur. Consider this an auspicious time to take an unarmored inspection tour of the collective.